is up, everyone? Welcome to Collide Life Groups. If I haven't met you yet, or if this is your very first time here, my name is Erica, and I just want to let you know I am so pumped you're here tonight hanging out at Collide. Okay, real quick question. Don't answer this out loud or anything, but have any of you ever run a race? My guess is that yes, you probably have at some point. You might have run a 10K, maybe you are in cross country or track, or maybe you just like to race your little sister to the car and see who can get the front seat. I don't know, but my guess is that every one of us at some point has been in some sort of race, even if it was just in first grade and you were just racing your friend to the tetherball. We've all been in a race at some point in our lives. And now in my experience, generally people have two different feelings about running. They either really, really love it and think it's the best thing on the planet, or they really, really hate it and probably even wouldn't run from a scary clown if they had to. Those are your two camps that we usually got. And I personally fell into the camp of really disliking running. It is just not my thing. And that's probably because I've had some bad experiences with it in the past, okay? I remember in middle school, I thought it was an excellent idea to go out for track. And I was like, I have no idea why I thought being on the track team would be fun. I hated running. Whose idea was it for me to be on track? I don't know, but it was a bad idea. So anyways, I decided to do track. And I was like, it's going to be great. And it was awful. But our coach had this one rule that if you were late to practice, she might just randomly throw you in to run the mile at a track meet at some point. And it scared us all for the first little while, but then she never did it. And so none of us were really scared anymore. People had started to get a little late to practice every now and then, and she hadn't thrown anyone to just randomly run the mile yet. And so I was super unconcerned. So one day I was pretty late to practice, a solid 15, 20 minutes late to practice. And I was like, oops, my bad. But I wasn't worried, so I thought it'd be fine. So I do my practice and all that sort of stuff, and we had a meet coming up. And then in that meet, 5 minutes before the mile is supposed to happen, she tells me, hey, Erica, you're going to run the mile today. And I was like, what? I am? I was so freaked out because I was not a long-distance runner. I was a sprinter. Actually, I did hurdles. That was the thing I did. Don't ask me to do it now because I would probably fall on my face and just die. But, that's what I did back then. I ran hurdles. So the mile for me was awful because the longest distance that I ran in any event was 200 meters. That was it, the mile was so outside of it. So I was freaking out. So I get there and I start running this mile and I get around the first lap and I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe I can do it. But then we keep going, and by the end of it, I'm like, I'm going to die. It's the end of the world. I was so tired. I literally did not know my legs could hurt that bad. Had absolutely no clue. I couldn't breathe. My legs felt like Jell-O. I wasn't even sure if they were there anymore. They turned numb at one point. It was awful. I had never run that long in my life or that far, and it was the worst. I was sore for weeks after that. So I totally relate to those of you who really dislike running because I really don't like it either. But catch this. In the US alone, there are over 60 million people who love it. And I don't get them. I don't relate to that at all, but they do. They love it. And that's some of you here tonight. Some of you love to run. Some of you are in cross country right now. It's your favorite sport of the year, or you're in track, or you just love to do it for fun. You get runner's high, all of this stuff. It's the best thing for you. And there are a lot of different reasons that people might like running. For you, it might be because you get to compete on your own. You're not reliant on anyone else to help you win. It's just solely you and your manpower and your ability to win. So you love competing by yourself. For others of you, it's because it's really peaceful and relaxing, or you get runner's high and you just get this adrenaline rush. There are a ton of different reasons you might like it. But one of the reasons that I think most people like it is because it's not complicated. Legitimately, think about it. Winning in a race isn't complicated. It's pretty simple. We all know how you win a race. You beat the person to the finish line, whether you're running in a 10K or just racing your friend to the nearest Casey's. The goal is to get to the finish line first. It's simple. It's not complicated for us. But no one is ever oh yeah, this is the most complicated thing ever. It's so simple. And I have tried to like understand all of the rules of football and soccer and some other sports before, and I just don't get it. Trust me, I have tried so hard. But running, I get, and it's because it's not complicated. But the thing is, it's not like that in any other area of our life, right? In most other areas of our lives, winning is actually pretty complicated. And take this for example. What if I were to ask you, what would it look like for you to win with your parents? I mean, what would you say? You certainly wouldn't say, well, all I have to do is get to the finish line by myself. It's fine. No, it's way more complicated than that, because some days, winning with your parents is doing the dishes without being asked, or other times you might do the dishes and your mom's yelling at you because you put them into the dishwasher wrong. You never really know what winning is. Is winning with your parents for you by getting good grades? Is it by having the right group of friends? Is it by doing all of these things when they don't ask, or being in all of these sports or extracurriculars? There are so many different ways you can win with your parents, but it's more complicated than running, right? Because you got to think through all of these different ways to do it and how to actually win. And I mean, the same is true when it comes to most other areas of our lives as well. Think about coaches, for example. I mean, coaches push you so hard, and each coach is different, and they're going to push you in different ways and expect different things out of you, even if they're coaching the same sport. Talk about complicated, right? Winning with them isn't simple. Or teachers, for example, they're constantly giving you harder and harder curriculum and projects and expecting you to learn more and do more and be smarter. Or parents, like we already said, they can put so much pressure on you for a variety of different things. And sometimes even our friends can put a lot of pressure on us to win or do things right or to be perfect. They might put pressure on you to do things like the same things that they like, or go to the same parties or events that they go to. There's a lot of different pressure from all sorts of different areas of our lives, and they all want us to win in different ways. And as I was thinking about this, it just made me wonder, does God expect the same thing? Does he? Does God expect us to be perfect like so many other people do? Is winning with God really as complicated as winning in other areas of our lives is? Do we have to have our whole lives together to have a relationship with Jesus? Do we have to do everything right? Do we have to be perfect? Do we have to have this checklist of things that we're constantly doing and making sure we do it right and perfect? Do we have to be perfect for God? Does chasing God mean chasing perfection? I mean, that's a question that honestly some of us have asked ourselves, and maybe asked more than once, because sometimes it can feel like this, right? Sometimes we might look at our lives and say, oh, they have to look a certain way for us to be able to have a relationship with God. Or some of us might not feel good enough to have a relationship with him. Maybe we've messed up in some ways, done some things that we know aren't his best for us, and so now we feel like there's no going back, we've just screwed it up already, so we might as well keep doing it. Or others have told us before, maybe you're here and you don't have a relationship with God, or you're not really sure about this whole church thing, and that's totally fine, but you might have heard from someone else before, oh, God's just out to ruin my life. I can't do all of these things, and I have to do all of these things to have this relationship with him. That doesn't seem like something I want, or that doesn't make sense. This question keeps popping up into our minds. Do we have to chase perfection to have a relationship with God? And that's actually what we're going to talk about tonight. But to unpack this, we're going to look at an encounter that Jesus had with two women. But before we get to it, there is actually some important back information, a little bit of backstory that you need to know. See, in this particular culture, when someone visited your home, it was a really big deal. Have you ever had family or guests coming over to your house and your mom is just frantically cleaning the house, and she's telling you to frantically clean the house, and you're like, Mom, they're never gonna look in our cabinets. Why are we dusting the shelves? But that's what she's telling you to do because people are coming over and she needs to get ready, Well, same thing back in this culture, but times 50, big deal for someone to come over to your house and to show hospitality to them. And you, in this culture at that time, you had to take really good care of this person and make sure they had everything they needed and, create the best environment for them. And this was amplified by a lot when someone important came over. And just to say, Jesus was really important. So when he came to stay at this house, it was a huge deal. So for Jesus to come stay with Mary and Martha, it was like the biggest event they ever had. And so as you can imagine, there was a lot to do. And it's not like Mary and Martha had all of these maids and stuff to help them get it all done. Like, no, it was all up to them. They had to get all of this stuff ready. But as we can tell in the story, two people can respond to the same circumstance and the same event very, very different. Check out how Mary and Martha react in Luke 10. As Jesus and the disciples continued on their way to Jerusalem, they came to a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. Her sister Mary sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he taught, but Martha was distracted by the big dinner she was preparing. So here we have Martha doing literally all the work, while Mary sits on the ground and listens to Jesus. Like, some of you know how this feels when your siblings are around, right? Like, your mom or dad might give you a whole list of things to do during the summer while they're at work and you're just home, especially during quarantine, you know? Like, they might give you a list of things to do, like mow the lawn, take the trash out, do the dishes, clean your room, whatever it is. And you might be doing it also. You don't get in trouble, and your sibling might just be sitting there literally doing nothing. And it's infuriating, right? Like, I know personally, me and my sister had this argument literally all the time. Most of the time, though, it was her getting mad at me because, like, I didn't want to clean. But, still, same principle applies. Like, we get it. When someone's not helping us do the things that we're supposed to do, it's super frustrating. And Martha was the same way. She was really upset at Mary for not helping her. After all, they had this really important guest there that they needed to show hospitality to. He was a big deal. They really needed to take care of him. And Mary wasn't doing jack squat. She wasn't doing anything. Martha was taking care of literally all of it by herself without any help. And she's rightfully upset. So while Martha does literally all of these things, Mary just sits around and hangs out with Jesus. And eventually, Martha gets really fed up with this. And so she takes her complaint to Jesus. Check out what she says in the next verse. Martha came to Jesus and said, "Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all of the work? Tell her to come and help me." So Martha basically says, "Okay, Jesus, don't you care that I'm doing all of this stuff by myself? Don't you see how hard I'm working for you? Don't you see that I'm doing all of these things for you? And Mary's just sitting there." That's how Martha feels. And it makes sense to us. We get why she feels this way. And in my brain, as I read this, I'm like, okay, well, Jesus is probably going to respond in one of two ways. He's either, one, going to roll his eyes and think that Martha's just being a super annoying tattletale, he could either respond that way, or then there's another way that I thought he might respond, which is, kind of like we would expect our parents to respond every now and then, where he says, "Okay, Mary, you're right, Martha. It's super unfair that your sister's not doing any of the work. Mary, why don't you go help Martha get dinner ready or clean the dishes or get the beds made or whatever it is?" But actually, Jesus doesn't respond that way at all. His response actually really fascinates me. Check out what he says next. "But the Lord said to her, 'My dear Martha, you are worried and upset over all these details. There is only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her.'" I mean, this response is super surprising, right? I mean, he doesn't roll his eyes and say, "Okay, lighten up, Martha," or "Come on, Mary, go help her." No, he says "Hey, Martha, Mary has found the most important thing, and I'm not going to take that away from her." Basically, what he's telling Martha is, hey, Mary is spending time with me. She's learning from me, and that's the most important thing. I'm not going to take it away from her, and hey, maybe you should do it too. But as he tells Martha this, he does it so lovingly, and he does it so caringly. See, what Jesus is getting at is that Mary was actually chasing the right thing. She was chasing a relationship with Jesus. See, Mary understood that the point wasn't to work for Jesus, but it was to be with Jesus. If you're taking notes, you could go ahead and write that down. Mary understood that the point wasn't to work for Jesus, it was to be with Jesus. And I think that a lot of us actually relate to Martha in this story. We tend to get so caught up in all of the different things around us that we have to do, that we have to get done, that we forget to just be with Jesus. I mean, some of us get so distracted by the things going on in our lives that we just say, "Oh, we just don't have time for God." Maybe you're super distracted by all of the sports practices that you have. I mean, you run from school sports to like the leagues that go on in the off season, and you just feel like you have zero time for home or time with Jesus. Maybe you're so caught up in schoolwork that you're just like, oh, I have to get this done, I have to get this done, I have to get this done. Jesus can wait. It's fine. And you get so caught up in the doing that you forget that you need to just be with Jesus. Or sometimes others of us, we get so distracted by doing things for God that we just forget to be with him. Just like Martha did. I mean, she was so concerned about making her house perfect for Jesus that she forgot to actually spend time with him. And some of us do that. Some of us spend so much of our time making sure that we're reading 2 chapters of the Bible every day, that we're praying, that we're journaling, that we're going to church every Sunday, that we come to Collide every week, that we invite friends, that we, serve every Sunday or whatever it is, that we forget the reason we actually did that in the first place. Sometimes we think of Christianity and this relationship with God as this like checklist of things that we have to do and we have to get done. And in that process, we forget that that was never the foundation of our relationship with Christ in the first place. That's never meant to be what our relationship with God is like. See, and I am super guilty of both of these. Like, I'm not going to lie. There have been so many moments throughout my life where I have just been so busy doing all of these other things. And I was like, I just do not have time for Jesus right now. I just don't. It's like, I'm going to go to bed and do it tomorrow. Like, I have been so busy with, like friends and family and being in the community and doing all of these other things, especially during middle school, high school, and college, that I was just always going home and going to bed and being like, I'll get to spending time with Jesus tomorrow. Like, I'm just too tired. I'm just going to go to bed right now. And then there have also been other moments in my life where I was so concerned with doing things for God that I forgot to be with God. Especially sometimes in my work, I do that. And I'm not going to lie. There have been so many times when I forgot the why behind what I was doing. I forgot the reason that I was doing it, and that the reason was just because I love God, not because I want to earn all of these accomplishments for him. And I bet if most of you were being honest, you would say you've probably been in one of those two camps at some point in your life. Like, I know your life is busy. It's crazy. It's full of things to do. Your schedules are insane. It never feels like you get a break. And I get that because I've lived it. But in the process of all of that, we can forget that we just need to be with Jesus. And there can be a ton of pressure from all around us and all of these different areas of our lives to perform, to do things perfectly, to chase after all of these different areas and do it so perfectly that we forget to chase after Jesus, or we think chasing after Jesus means performing. But here's what I need you to understand tonight, Collide. Chasing after Jesus means not chasing performance. I need you to catch that. Write that down. Chasing after Jesus means not chasing performance. See, a relationship with Jesus has never been about the things that you do or don't do. A relationship with Jesus has never been about that. I know sometimes we're so tempted to think, if I'm good enough, I'll make it to heaven. Or if I'm good enough, God will love me. Or if I do X, Y, and Z enough, then I'll be a good person. Then I'll have it, whatever it is. But I need you to understand tonight, Clyde, that is not the case. Your relationship with Christ, our relationship with him, even if you don't have one yet, is never about what you do. It has always been about what Jesus has done for you. If you're taking notes, you got to write that down. A relationship with God has never been about what you do. It has always been about what Jesus has done for you. You do not have to be perfect. And I know some of you might not have heard that very often. You might not have heard that it's okay to fail. It's okay to not overcommit. It's okay to not chase perfection in all of these other areas. It's okay. Because the most important thing in life at the end of the day is chasing after Jesus. And chasing after him means not chasing performance. And that should be pretty freeing for us, right? Because wow, isn't that a breath of fresh air? It relieves so much pressure off of us. Because it means instead of trying to like earn our way to Jesus by doing all of these different things, we don't have to anymore. Like we just get to be. And there's no other place that I've ever experienced almost in my entire life where I just get to come as I am and just be, and that's okay. Where I don't have to work to earn the love. Where I don't have to work to earn the approval. Or where I don't have to work to earn the like, I'm proud of yous. We don't have to do that in our relationship with God. I know you might feel like you have to do that with your friends, with your parents, or with your coaches or your teachers. You might feel like you have to do that in all of these other areas, but I'm telling you, you can have freedom from that when you are in a relationship with Christ because you are not defined by the things you do. That's not where you find your identity or worth anymore when you have a relationship with Christ. It is all by what he has done for you. I mean, the Bible tells us it's never about what you do because it tells us that all have fallen short of the glory of God, which basically means we can't earn it. We can't be good enough. We'll never be good enough on our own because we've all messed up and we can never reach God's perfect standard, so he doesn't hold us to it. Instead, he offers us love and grace and freedom in Christ. He offers us forgiveness again and again. So when you chase after Jesus, you're not chasing perfectionism. You're not chasing performance anymore. Now, that does not mean that we get a free pass to go do whatever we want and choose less than God's best all the time, because that will jack up your life in a lot of different ways. And that's genuinely not his best for you. But what I am telling you is that if you have been so concerned or so weighed down by trying to chase performance or perfectionism, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You can let that go. And there are a few different practical ways that you can do this. So if you're taking notes, you can go ahead and write these down. The very first way you can practically do this is by telling pressure no. If you're taking notes, write that down. Tell pressure no. Because let's be real, when we're trying to chase performance and we're trying to chase perfectionism, we feel pressure, right? It's a heavy burden to carry. But you can literally tell it no, which I know sounds kind of weird, but think about it for a second. Think about something that you feel pressure in your life right now. You might feel pressure to perform perfectly or get good grades or whatever it is. Just think of that right now. And then all of the feelings that come with that, right? Like anxiety, fear, worry, all of these different things. And then literally say, no, I'm not going to feel that. No, I will not feel pressure over this. No, I'm not going to chase performance or perfection. It's super freeing. You literally get to tell pressure no when you have a relationship with Christ, because you know that you don't have to chase after performance anymore because you're chasing after Jesus instead. And he frees you from feeling like you have to do everything perfectly. So that's the first thing you can do. The second thing you can do is just tell God about it. For real, I know it sounds so simple, but the second thing you can do is just simply pray. God tells us over and over, again and again throughout the Bible, cast your anxieties and your fears and your worries on me. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. That means that God is telling you, hey, you can bring all of your fears, all your worries, all your pressure to me, and I will lift it off of you. I will quite literally lighten the load. So when you start feeling those things, simply pray to God. It could be a one-sentence prayer. Say, God, I am feeling so much pressure right now. I need you to give me peace instead. Simple thing. God, I'm feeling pressure. Take it away. Give me peace. Very simple thing to pray. Collide. We don't have to feel the pressure to be perfect or chase performance anymore because Jesus has given us freedom from that. And a relationship with him means not chasing performance or perfection anymore. As you head out into your life groups, I want you to think about this question. What does it look like to stop chasing performance and start chasing Jesus in your life? What's one practical step you can do starting today to start chasing Jesus over performance? Let me pray for you really quick before we head out to life groups. Jesus, thank you so much for who you are. Thank you for loving us in all of the great and amazing ways that you do. And Jesus, thank you for not making us be perfect. Thank you for the grace that you give us and for covering all of our imperfections for us. God, we are so thankful that you take all of our fears, all of our worries, all of our anxiety, all of the pressure that's in our life, and you lift it off of us because your yoke is easy and your burden is light. And so God, tonight I'm asking that for any student who's listening to this, that you remind them again and again that you give peace, you give hope, you give love, and you take away fear, anxiety, worry, and pressure. Jesus, we love you, and it's in your name we pray. Amen. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us. You can head out to your life groups now.